Hi, Right Writers. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be looking at GED preparation resources. I have had some emails asking about GED preparation, and I wanted to provide at least one link, and I will continue to search for other links with respect to the GED. In this case, I am on a website from the Texas Education Agency. And what I always like to do is demonstrate to students that there are online resources available to them, to you all, and they are free. However, it requires some research and some digging. And sometimes we just don't have the time to do that. And so I wanted to make sure that I responded back to this email that I received with respect to GED with a short video. So this is connected to again the what is called the general education. It could be called general education development, also called the general education diploma, and it provides GED practice questions. In this case, it identifies or advertises that for a small fee you can take the GED practice test. There's a study guide, instructional videos, math resources, and GED practice test questions. So, I do want to, again, just kind of show you the website here, Right Writers. And I wanted to click on the GED practice questions. So, when you click on this, it basically goes through the 5 things to know about GED practice test. And then it gives you the 4 sections that and it goes through what's in it, and then you can just sort of click on each of these particular links to try the math sample test, the language arts sample test, the social studies, or the science. You can also click on it right down here as well, and it lets you know what is expected with the GED. And as you can see, again, we've got free GED practice tests. And so, again, oftentimes you can access these tests for free. They don't cost anything, and they will prepare you for the test itself. So, in this case, we're going to look at kind of an overview of the math, the language arts, the social studies, and the science, just so, again, you can see what is expected. And so, I'm going to go ahead and hit start here. As you can see, this is the test on the computer. If you don't have a computer at home, many times, especially in the United States, libraries have access to laptops and larger computers where you can actually take these practice tests rather than trying them on your phone. And so, again, if you do not have a computer at home, please check with your local library. So once I hit the GED practice test, again, they go through what's required with mathematical reasoning. Again, I'm not going to just, practice the test questions with you, but just so, again, you get an overview of what is on the GED and, again, inspire you if you do not have one, have your GED or have your high school diploma to take it. So here we see 10 practice questions, and we can go through. They even have a formula sheet for you to see what is expected on the formulas. And so you can see we've got slope, we've got some algebra here, the simple interest, the Pythagorean theorem, quadratic formula. We've got slope intercept, and then also perimeter, surface area, and volume, and all the formulas that you need to be successful. So that's helpful. So here we see again sort of a basic question on a painter rather rented a wallpaper steamer at 9 o'clock and returned it at 4. He paid a total of $28.84. What was the rental cost per hour? So, here we have sort of a basic kind of division question here, taking from 9 to 4, how many hours, dividing that by 28.84 to get the hourly rate. I'm going to go ahead and click on the next question. Here we have a little bit more of a complicated question. So obviously we're going to plug in these variables to be able to get the response. But I just thought that that was interesting that it sort of was quite a bit of a jump there between question one and question two. All right. Here we have another question, almost like a word problem question, where You've got a budget. You expect a certain amount of people to attend. The cost of the meeting room is $270, which inequality shows how to find the amount X Annie can spend on lunch for each person. So again, inequalities going through. If you're struggling with a concept, I always tell students take that word and go ahead and jump to Khan Academy, because Khan Academy is amazing for math help. Going on to the next question. Again, sort of a percentage here. In this case, looking at how much you're earning per week plus commission. And it goes through what will the earnings be. And so you can sort of get a glimpse at the expectations. This one all of a sudden jumped quite a bit in complication here. But again, you can at least start to practice. They've got the information, and it looks like on the left side, and we've got some charts, and it looks like we have to basically plot the points here based on the diameter and the year. And so, looking at sort of that X and Y um, axis rather than access, but axis for this particular question. Moving on to the next question, we see again even a continuation of a previous problem. And you can see again the practice formula here. More on the problem. I think that this is interesting because they're really trying to take you through probably to how complicated it can be, but it's the same, almost the same information. This time, again, you're extending the learning through this particular chart here on the left hand side. Moving on to question number 8. Here, this is really about just, reading graphs and looking at it from a graph literacy standpoint. What would the level of ibuprofen be in the patient's bloodstream, increased from what hours to what hours? And so you can sort of see that and graph it. We also have, now we're getting into the volume of, in this case, of a cone. And so, of course, you're going to want to go to your formula sheet and look at, okay, what's surface area and volume of a cone? So obviously, we're not looking at surface area, we're looking at volume. Moving on to, that was question number 9. And then again, practice question number 10. We're back to algebraic problems. And so we have, again, question 10 out of 10. So that's an example of mathematical reasoning. So moving on to, again, language arts, we can see some practice, and we've got sort of the same setup, and they have the reasoning through language arts. This one again also has 10 questions. We've got a passage followed by questions. You can go to page 2, 3, 4, and it looks like it's really just one passage, and the same passage, it's just 10 questions about that particular passage. So questions on this one is what I call a text evidence question: which quotation from the passage supports the idea that Supit is teaching the narrator a skill that requires patience? I hope I said that name right. And so showing the text evidence proving that it requires patience, that this particular skill. The next question is focused on what the reader can infer. So, what I usually tell students, if you see a question like this, that means the answer is not in the passage. So, you have to infer based on the information given, which means you're making a conclusion. And so, an easy way to think about it is eliminate the answer choices of the information that's in the passage, and then you have to just deduce, or sort of take your best educated guess based on the information that you're given, what kind of opinion can be made with the information. The next one, this is what is called a context clue question. Which definition best matches the use of the word occupied in paragraph 16? So you're looking at, I like how they basically label the paragraphs here. And so we know we're jumping to 16, and we're looking at, a context clue and looking at how the word is being used in the paragraph and a definition for that. Next, we have a new passage this time. This is an excerpt from the Anne of Green Gables. And in this case, in this excerpt, Anne asks Marilla to call her Cordelia. What does this request reveal about Anne? And again, this for me is what I would call an inference question. So it's asking you to infer something about the character based on the information that you're given. Next, moving on, we've got what is called, what I like to call, uh, sort of organization of, in this case, order of events. But this is helping to see if you understand how a story or a plot is organized. And this is sort of a drag and drop here for question number 5. Continuing on to question number 6, drag and drop each word that describes Anne into the character web. And so we can see information based on what we're given in the passage. You can definitely tell this seems to focus very much on Anne and her character development in the story. Next, we have some grammar. So in this case, we've got in question number 7 a letter. The passage below is incomplete. Navigate to each select button and choose the option that correctly completes the sentence. And so we can see how the grammar portion is set up. Again, I like being able to practice so there are no surprises. The next one, in this case, this is checking your nonfiction abilities. In this case, President Truman mentioned the United Nations Commission on Human Rights during his speech to the NAACP in order to show what? In this case, this is one of those where oftentimes these are inference questions, meaning the answer is not in the passage. You have to come up with your own judgment or opinion based on the information that you're given. Question number 9, what approach did Eleanor Roosevelt take to encourage acceptance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Again, we've got our answer choices here, looking at what approach she took. And again, I'm sure that it is the information is highlighted here in article number 2. It is interesting how they have 2 articles. So it's really sort of a compare and contrast as well to assess your abilities to do that. And then finally, they have sort of a writing question here with a different passage, an analysis of daylight savings time or saving time. And in this case, it says the article presents arguments from both supporters and critics of daylight saving time who disagree about the practice's impact on energy consumption and safety. And your response analyze both positions presented in the article to determine which one is best supported. Use relevant and specific evidence from the article to support your response. Type your response in the box below. You should expect to spend up to 45 minutes in planning, drafting, and editing your response. Okay, so this for me is very interesting, right, writers, because this is begging for a separate video. Because again, our channel here is really focused on writing. And so um, perhaps this connection as well with the student who had asked about the GED, this definitely ties into what might be expected, you know, on the GED, but how I can help you as well in the channel, Right Writers. So in this case, I definitely see a lot of information here. And again, if you're expected to type this in 45 minutes, you're probably able to copy and paste the information. So this is begging for a separate video, and I will go ahead and make a note of that, right, writers, to create a video connected with the writing section of the GED for language arts. So again, you feel more confident going into the test.